Watches and Wonders is now positioned as the #1 watch show in the world, but like it or not, it is fundamentally elitist, and the strong stench of inequality wafts through the air. In terms of the exhibitors, this is a place for the few, not the many. This is a place only for the big establishment corporations that can afford it. This is a place of marketeer supremacy, for which its subjects are brainwashed into worshipping the brands that this year failed to bring us innovation, rather reheated novelties with different colorways, straps and materials. Here, print journalists are wined and dined to give positive reviews of new releases from the monopolistic big players. Here, only money talks. Money buys you the stage, the exposure and ultimately the sales. Creative watchmaking originality? No. The ignored independent brands this year brought us watches crafted from tantalum, the rarest stable element in the solar system, and even a perpetual calendar complication which will be delivered for under $10,000. But at the biggest watch event in the world, these enthusiast brands were not really welcome on that centre stage. So for the second year running, I left the show disgusted. Hi guys, I'm Vinny and welcome back. Now, I visited Watches and Wonders this year just the same as last year really, looking for what the prevailing story was. Underneath all of those brand new releases, what can we learn about the watch industry and the direction in which the watch industry is going? Now, last year I found it quite amazing that I visited the show and most of these sort of big brands weren't actually interested in engaging with any of the public visitors. They weren't interested in you trying on their new novelties. You could barely see their new pieces through a glass window stood a few meters behind the 6-foot people that were stood in front of you, which for me, I'm not the tallest guy in the world, was a bit irritating to travel thousands of miles to Geneva to barely see the new watch releases by Rolex. So what happened this year? I didn't really expect much to change in that regard. I was really shocked and taken aback by the fact that some of really the biggest innovating brands in the industry, those independent, smaller brands who really, let's be honest, cater for a much wider audience of more ordinary people who can actually afford their watches under that £10,000 price point, I was amazed to see that they were actually pretty much excluded from the show. They were excluded from the main Watches and Wonders event due to what I can really only describe as economic discrimination. Watches and Wonders is just too expensive. Too expensive for brands like Baltic, Atelier Venn and Furlon Mori to participate. 30 or 40 independents were exhibiting at the Beau Rivage Hotel, and it was really quite sad to see such great innovators in our industry exhibiting their new pieces on nothing more than a plastic pop-up table with a sheet over it and a pull-up sign. The brands that can afford the big marketing budgets can afford to be there and really therefore get all of the attention, all of the limelight and all of that journalism from the legacy media that we have in the watch industry. Watches and Wonders, look, people have commented it is quite sort of sanitized, it is lifeless. I know and appreciate it was originally a trade show, but when you open the doors to the public, this is now more than a trade show. Watches and Wonders for me, if you want to be the world's leading watch event, then you have to embrace and welcome all of those brands, all of those independents who really are doing great work in advancing the industry and opening the doors to more clients than those elitist top brands. There is now a growing movement of enthusiasts across the industry where they're really wising up to the marketing bullshit that they're being fed by those bigger brands. Equality and honesty is being craved more. Enthusiasts want to see more of these plucky independents and their great value for money propositions. Enthusiasts are growing tired of the likes of Hodinkee, Time and Tide, Monochrome, Fratello journalists telling them what to buy because they're being paid big bucks to do so. The legacy media of the industry are losing the confidence of the enthusiasts as we question their impartiality more and more. And I've actually heard from many of the commentariat in the industry that there are now questions really over Watches and Wonders. This year, I must say, a general review from me would be that it was quieter than last year. There were fewer people there, despite the fact that there was an extra public day, which probably is an echo of sentiment in the market, not just in the grey market of which I operate, but also in the retail sector as well. Some journalists have questioned, is it going to be there next year? Are we seeing the downfall of Watches and Wonders starting to begin in the same way that we saw it happen with Baselworld? If you want to really become the world's leading watch event, which embraces all, then you have to be an event which champions the entire watch industry and champions these independent brands. They should not be stuck in some hotel conference room. Have a lower entry price, perhaps even smaller stalls and stands for these smaller brands so that they are at least there. Now let's give some real exposure to those brands that were not able to exhibit at the Elitist Watches and Wonders show. I want to start with talking about Furlon Mari, their perpetual calendar Quantième complication watch. Now Furlon Mari are to launch a production version of their only watch auction piece unique. The big innovation is their perpetual calendar module, which they have developed in-house and will be made of only, get this, 27 parts. 27 moving parts to turn a standard time and day only watch into a perpetual Quantième calendar movement, which is just fascinating and incredible, I think, and also incredible that will mean this watch will actually be thinner than their chronograph. And you know what the best thing about this new complication is going to be, and this new innovation? Because of the fact that there are so few parts, it means that of course production costs are kept at a minimum, and they are aiming to launch this piece under $10,000 US, which is considerably cheaper than pretty much any other perpetual calendar I can think of in the industry, and means that the perpetual calendar complication now is a lot more accessible to a much wider audience of people, of enthusiasts like myself. I was also very impressed by Atelier VINNY'S, a brand based out of China, which is a Chinese and French collaboration. It was amazing to see that they'd actually imported their guilloche machine, and their master guilloche artisan, Master Cheng, was actually there present. What's incredible about what they do is, first of all, real guilloche, which even from Rolex this year, they've made an attempt to give us guilloche, and it isn't real hand-turned guilloche. It's done electronically by a machine. Even this machine that was imported by Master Cheng's machine himself, the machine was built and designed by him. It's, he believes, an innovation above and beyond the Swiss industry, the traditional Swiss guilloche machines. Their standard perception line, the dials that Master Cheng creates, can take around 8 hours to hand turn on the Rose engine. Typically, he told me that there would be a failure rate of around 20%, but also they're producing guilloche dials that are much more complicated in nature and can take up to 36 hours to turn on the Rose engine. Now, what's interesting about this is that they cannot leave the Rose engine for more than 15 minutes, so they actually have to swap between different artisans to keep that same design going, otherwise it will skew off in the wrong direction and it will become wastage. So the failure rate for these pieces at 36 hours is around 60%. These guys are watches that they're offering under £4,000. I want to also shine the limelight on a novelty that Atelier VINNY'S will be launching later this year, and that is a new perception model crafted out of a rare and precious metal known as tantalum. Tantalum is the rarest stable element found in our entire solar system, far less abundant than gold or any other traditional precious metals. The use of tantalum in the case and bracelet construction means that it is a very, very hard material and therefore more resistant to scratches, though it is very cost inefficient to produce a watch out of tantalum, which is why we've not really seen it from from any other brands. Omega used a little bit of tantalum in an Omega Seamaster they made a few years ago. What's even more incredible is that Atelier then intend this watch line to be a full production piece. They intend to make hundreds of these watches as opposed to just a limited line of 10 or 15 of them. Now, the final brand which was not featured at the Watches and Wonders main event is Baltic. This is a plucky, independent French brand which is really doing an incredible job at bringing us vintage inspired, almost high horology level of watchmaking for some of their watches at under $1,000 US. It's the first time I've actually got hands-on with any of their pieces, and in the flesh I was really taken aback by the level of finishing, attention to detail that they put into their dials and case construction. I was able to get hands-on with a most recent release, the Prismic, which features a dial with multi-components in there, several layers, and also a case construction which is made of titanium and steel with independent lugs that are attached to the case, all of which is delivered at a price point of under $1,000. The quality of dial construction on their Hermetique line, the way that it is finished with almost cheese block like fully loomed hour markers, which is also offered at a mere $550 US, it just blows the mind. And these are the kind of pieces again that I think that the enthusiasts who traveled from all over the world to visit Watches and Wonders wanted to see, because frankly, for the majority of us, these are the pieces that we can afford. So to conclude then, I would say that Watches and Wonders, they need to evolve. They need to stop being as elitist as they are and perhaps open their arms and embrace the entirety of the watch industry, the brands which are for the many and not just for the few. Guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, go check out beatthewaitlist-watches.com, and I will see you next time.